Hello everyone, and today's video I'll be discussing the tips on how to pass the CPC exam on time. So, are you having a hard time finishing the CPC exam on time? Then, this video is for you. So, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I have my new upload. So, tips coming up. Tip number 1, focus on your strength. Okay, this is a very important tip. Like, for example, remember the exam or the CPC exam is 150 questions. Okay? And you are only given 5 hours and 40 minutes to complete the exam. So, roughly, you only have 2.2 minutes per question. So, it's very helpful, guys, for you to finish it on time, to focus first on your strength. What do you mean by that? Remember, the exam is a 5-column questions. Your test paper, or your answer sheet rather, is composed of 5 columns, and per column you have 150 questions. Okay, so you are only given around 1 hour per column, so that's 30 items. So it's technically you need to complete that 30 items in 1 hour. Now, your first, remember, it's 5 columns, so you need to complete it in an hour. So you consumed already 5 hours, and you're still left with 40 minutes. What will you going to do in that 40 minutes? I'll be discussing that in your tip number 3. So let's focus first on your tip number 1. What do you mean by focus on your strength? What do you mean by that? Remember, the exam is divided per topic. Okay, like for example, 1 to 10 is like, for example, integumentary system. 11 to 20 is musculoskeletal system. 21 to 30 is your cardiovascular system, or so on and so forth. So remember, guys, it's not a mix of questions. Like, for example, number 1, it's composed of integumentary, cardio, digestive, like that. It's not like that. Your exam is divided per topic. Now, since it is divided per topic, it's easy for you to select what is the best for you. What topic are you good enough? Like, every time I have my final coaching, guys, I always mention to the students to please have your plan before sitting in the exam. You need to have your game plan, meaning you need to know what are the topics that you are good enough, and those topics that you are not that familiar with the guidelines. Okay, because remember, when you focused on your strength, or on that easy question for you, because it's subjective, it's case-to-case basis. It might be that integumentary is good for me, it's easy for me, but the other students, it's not easy for them. So it's subjective, and you need to have a game plan before you take the exam. First, like for example, if your strength is you're good in anatomy, you can start with anatomy first. You can start on that column first. Like, for example, because remember, before you take the exam, it's really nerve-wracking, and it causes mental block. That's very, very true, guys. So I took a lot of exam with CPC, with AAPC already, and it's, even if you're taking your second, third, it's still nerve-wracking, because it's still an exam and you need to pass. Okay, so like, going back, if you focus to your strength, like for example, if you're good with anatomy and you started with that, okay, the time starts and you started with that easy topic for you, like for example in the anatomy, and you read the first question for the anatomy, and you are confident that you know it. Guys, that will boost your morale. That will boost your confidence. Hey, I am sure that I already have one correct answer. Okay? So, you can complete all the anatomy first, complete all the digestive question first, complete all the integumentary question first before moving on to the last topic that is not that easy for you. Okay, that is my personal suggestion, because but there are some students like they want to start with the hardest first because they want to they need to to consume all their energy, their brain cells on those hard topics, so that on the latter part, if they are tired already, they're answering those easy questions. That's easy for them. But remember, if you're not that confident enough with those hard questions, don't consume your time answering those questions, because you are allowed to have 35 mistakes, because you need to have a 105 correct answers in order to pass the exam. Okay? And the common observation that I encountered during an exam is they were not able to finish it on time. Okay, so what if they started with the hardest topic, and on the last topics, or on that second to the last column, or to the last column, because remember, if they started with number 1, there are students that only completed 100 questions. There are students who only completed 120 questions. There are students who only completed 130 questions. And remember, if you only completed 130 questions, you need to have around 15, or how many how many mistakes you need to know, you need to have. So the percentage of passing the exam is not that high already, because remember, you were not able to answer the 20 items if you only completed 130. So my suggestion is to focus first on your strength, because if you focus first on your strength, it's easier for you to answer those questions, and definitely it will save time. Okay, and those save time, you can focus it on those hard questions. Okay, that is my personal suggestion. If you're having a hard time finishing those 150 questions within 5 hours and 40 minutes. So tip number 1, focus on your strength. Okay, next tip number 2, be familiar with your book. I know this is common, this is a common tip that you may encounter, but guys, this is very helpful. You need to be familiar with your book. Like, you need to know where you put those tabs. Okay? You can also create your personalized tab, because this may help a lot in your time management. Because if you are familiar with your book, you know where you put your tabs, it will save a time looking for that code. And another thing is, if you, like, for example, if you highlighted those guidelines, you highlighted those parentheticals, and when you go through that choices, like for example, there's a choice there in the exam, there's a code that you need to go through, and you highlight, and beside that there's a guideline, and you are the one who highlighted those guidelines. It's very easy for you to look at those guidelines, okay, because you are the one who highlighted those. Okay, because you remember, when you're taking the exam, you'll no longer have enough time to read all the guidelines from top to bottom. Okay, so you need to be familiar. This is very important, especially with those out of sequence codes. Okay, so if you have your personalized tab, it would be easier for you to locate those codes. And remembering the exam, they love to ask questions that is out of sequence, or those codes that's not really common for you. So you need to be familiar with your book. You need to put your own tab. You need to put your own highlights there. Okay, so it's very important to be familiar with your book. Okay, next tip number 3, learn to move on. Guys, this is very, very basic in the exam. That's learn to move on. Like, for example, if you're spending 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes already in that one question, guys, move on. Remember, one question is the same point in one easy question. Okay? So what if you spend your 30 minutes reading the questions, looking for the correct answer, and you're correct with that one question, but you were not able to finish it on time? I mean, you were not able to finish the whole exam. So, the percentage of passing the exam might lowered. Okay? Because remember, you were not able to finish it. Unlike if you learn to move on, what I'm always saying is learn the art of skipping. Okay? You can always, like, for example, if there's one page questions, 2 pages question, and you really know that you need to spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes in order to get the correct answer, you can put a temporary answer. You can put a temporary answer there. And remember a while ago in my first tip, you need to have 1 hour per column, and you still have 40 minutes remaining. That 40 minutes remaining is you will going to use it going back to those questions that you skipped. Okay, at least you are confident enough that you were able to finish the exam, because you will need to go back after finishing the 150 questions. Okay, and like, for example, if you no longer have enough time going back to those, still you have your temporary answer, and at least you were able to read all questions, and you will not have any regrets that you were not able to read those easy questions. Okay, so this is very important, because as I mentioned a while ago, you are allowed to have 35 mistakes. Okay, and if you were able to answer all those questions, there's a high percentage of passing the exam. I mean, you were able to read, analyze, and look for the proper code. You were able to look at the guidelines, so at least you are confident enough that you are correct with those answers. Okay, so guys, don't focus on just one question. I understand that there are questions that is very lengthy, that's very long, and you need to spend a lot of time, and it really requires time. I mean, you cannot answer those without reading everything. Okay, so that is our tip number 3. So for more tips on passing the CPC exam, you'll be notified if I will be uploading the next video. I'll be focusing more on other tips in order to pass the CPC exam. So good luck and pass the CPC exam with flying colors. Okay? Thank you.